My name is Felix. I am a 22-year-old man who earns living off of small-time jobs. Made some bad decisions during my teenage years and dropped out of high school at the age of 18. I was young, wild, and reckless. I didn't care about anyone's opinion and was privileged enough to be born in a decent household. My father earned a lot of money, so I never got a job. But I came to my senses after my dad passed away in an accident. I was 18 at the time. The burden to provide for the family now fell on my shoulders. I had to put food on the table for myself, my mother, and my 7-year-old sister from then on. I did a lot of work just to get a sustainable income. I mowed lawns, babysat for my neighbors, walked other people's dogs just to get my hands on a few dollars. At 20 years of age, I was not only doing the work I did when I was 18, but also got a nighttime job as a security guard at a mall. I was working really hard every day just to survive and was sleep deprived most of the time. And so after working like this for 2 years, I became irritable and short-tempered. I got fired from my job for misbehaving with the owner's son. Until that point of time, I did not know saving a girl from 2 drunk men touching a cat. Calling her was misbehaving, but okay. I started looking for a nighttime job on Craigslist and came across an ad. It was a job offer by a cab company. It read, "Position open as a night shift cab driver, cabs. Work 6 hours a day, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., 6 days a week. Earn $150 a day. For further queries, call phone number omitted." I was excited on seeing such a great offer. I calculated the monthly income, which came out to total around $3,600 a month. With this amount of money, I could stop mowing lawns and taking care of babies, all while providing for my family, and even buying them gifts every once in a while. Not to mention the fact that because I would not be working day shifts if I got this job, I could catch up on my sleep. I called up the number given on the ad. A smooth, high-pitched male voice answered the call. He introduced himself as Dave. I inquired about the job, and after a quick interview over the phone, I got hired. The only thing that struck me as odd were some of the questions he asked. Majority of them were pretty normal. Are you nocturnal or have difficulty staying up at night? What's your age? But he also asked some rather odd questions. Are you an imaginative man? Can you follow a strict list of rules to the T if asked to? Can you keep calm under hazardous conditions and drive safe, even when you're speeding? The questions raised some red flags, but I was too blinded by the high amount, if pay, they were offering. He told me I could start as soon as today. I looked at the clock hanging from the wall. It was 12 p.m. I told him I would be there at 12 a.m. sharp. My mother was ecstatic when I gave her the news. She was more happy with the fact that I would spend more time with her and catch up on some sleep that she was with the pay. I thought of buying her something nice as soon as I completed my first month of work and collected $3,600. I reached the decided location at 11:58 p.m. It was just a kilometer away from my house, so I didn't bother bringing my car. As Dave said, the company will be providing the cabs at 12 a.m. Sharp, a Prius pulled up and parked in front of me. A man wearing all black got out of the car and walked over to me. He greeted me with a warm smile and gave me the keys to the car I was supposed to be driving. It was the Prius. He congratulated me on getting the job. He set up the cab app on my mobile phone, and just before leaving, handed me a piece of paper and $150, then said, "Read this paper as soon as you can. It is a list of rules for you to follow." With this, he turned around and started walking into the night. After I saw his turn the corner, I got into the car, closed the doors, and smoothed out the folded piece of paper and started reading. It read, "Hey Felix, this is Dave. Now there is something you should understand. Only you can read the text on this piece of paper. So there's no point in going to the cops or suing us because frankly, no one would believe you. Keep that in mind. And also, majority of the people you will pick up and drop will not be human. Rule 1. If you get a pickup request from a number with only 6 digits, call them up and politely decline. Do not go within 100 meters of their location for next 2 hours. Always apologize and make up a reason why you cannot come. The creature doesn't take rude remarks well. Rule 2. Always seat the passengers in the back seat and check their mirror reflection. If they have a reflection, drop them off to their location and do not ask for money. They will pay as they wish. If they do not have a reflection, take the pistol in the glove compartment and shoot yourself. It will be a marginally painless death compared to what they will do to you. Rule 3. Do not eat anything non-vegetarian in the cab. The smell of meat might capture some creature's unwanted attention. And believe me when I say you do not want their attention. Rule 4. If you get a call from a person you know, do not answer the call. It is not them. If you do respond to them, you will hear a deafening screech which has been responsible for bursting eardrums in the past. Rule 5. Do not try to abandon the car on the road or you will die the most brutal way your brain can imagine. Yes, they can read minds. Rule 6. You cannot give this job us without working here for at least 2 weeks. For the reasons I cannot specify because of the company's policy. Rule 7. If you get dark figures running along the car, speed up and try to ignore them. Do not stop or slow down. If you maintain a speed of 80 schemes, they will not be able to catch you. The other option is driving on a busy road. They will perform mock charges and give you illusions that they are gaining on you. But if you're driving fast, just keep driving fast for 3 to 4 more minutes and they will be gone. Rule 8. If you smell rotten meat in the back seat, do not look behind you. Instead, take the pistol from the glove compartment, close your eyes, turn around and fire on all the 3 back seats. It will be gone. It can't hurt you if you cannot see it. Rule 9. If your engine dies down, do not step out of the car. It is a bait to get you out. Wait for 20 to 30 minutes and the car should start right back up. Rule 10. Do not dial anyone. They will not pick up. Calling for help also annoys the creatures after you. Your most beloved person might die of natural causes just the next day if you try to reach out to people who will not be picking up because their phones won't even be ringing. Rule 11. At 6 a.m., bring this car to your house, leave the key in, and walk back inside your home. The car will disappear in an hour or so, and will be right back there the next night at 12 a.m. I chuckled at the stupid list. Scary prank on the new guy, huh? I whispered under my breath and started driving. After just 5 to 10 minutes, my mom started calling. Just before I could pick it up, I froze with fear. I could smell the scent of rotting meat. I slowly opened the glove compartment, took out the pistol, closed my eyes, then turned around and shot 6 rounds, 2 bullets at each seat. I heard a loud shriek. After about 5 seconds, I opened my eyes to see that the seats were empty, but one of the windows was open, and there was some blood on the left seat. I cleaned it up with a towel kept in the glove compartment and started driving. I got a request. It was a regular number. I started driving towards its location. The passenger was a girl. She got in the back seat, and I started driving. I slowly tilted the rearview mirror, hoping and praying that she had a reflection. Luckily she did. We eventually reached her destination, which was on a farm on the outskirts of town. She tipped me $10, got out of the car, and climbed up one of the farm's walls with ease. I sat there in the car, shocked. Eventually the bleating of goats and the sound of flesh tearing broke me out of my trance, and I started driving away. After half an hour of contemplating what I had just witnessed, I received another request. I checked its location. It was as if my heart stopped beating when I saw the passenger's number. It only had 6 digits and was just 87 meters away from me. I started my car back up and started driving. It was gaining on me. I started panicking. It was only 50 meters away from me. I could now feel the ground-shaking footsteps and low-pitched growls. I sped up to nearly 100 kilometers per hour and noticed that I was successfully moving away from it. I was 92 meters away from it when I noticed them. The dark figures, they were running alongside my car. I almost swerved off the road and into a wall 2 times, but I kept my cool and tried my best to ignore them. The figures, which looked like shadows of a human just a minute ago, distorted into demonic shadows within seconds. Walls around me started to bleed. I somehow maintained a consistent speed of nearly 100 km without crashing, and after a short, intense change, everything was suddenly back to normal. I was beginning to think I had lost my mind. I wanted to call my mother, but with everything that had happened up till that point of time, I did not want to break a rule. Then I remembered I had to make a call to the passenger and apologize, and that's what I did. It sounded like a charismatic young over the phone, but I knew better. After this whole ordeal was over, it was just 4 a.m. The next 2 hours passed by pretty normally. I picked up 3 more passengers, but they seemed normal.
I did exactly what Dave told me to do, parked the car outside my house, and went to sleep.
I woke up at 9 a.m. and gave my mother the $150. She was really happy. I knew if I told her what had actually gone down, she would not believe me. So I am sitting here typing this at 10 p.m. I do not want to go back to that car again, but I have no option, and no one will believe me if I die. Here lies my story. If I make it through this night, I will be grateful to God. I just wanted to know, has anybody else gotten this job offer from our cabs? It was my first night shift. Working extra at a gas station is pretty far from every boy's dream, but it pays the bills. I was hell, bent on not having another opportunity slip out of my hands because of money. One small investment and moved to Minneapolis, and I would have had a 6-figure salary, but I just couldn't find the funds. So there I was, stocking the shelves at a gas station. Money is money, and there's plenty of future to go around, I figured. I worked a few day shifts before, so I knew the place well enough. However, I'd never been left alone for the night shift before. This was the first time I'd be completely unsupervised. Jada, my supervisor, was about to take off for the night. She kept repeating the same instructions over and over. Then again, this place had huge turnover. Maybe she honestly forgot I wasn't that new. No phones, she urged. You got a slow night, make yourself useful. Nod and smile. I decided to get the worst tasks out of the way early. Cleaning the bathroom, restocking the freezers, taking out the trash, checking the receipt rolls, watering the plants. It took me about an hour. It wasn't even midnight yet, and I was pretty much done for the night. I considered mopping the floor, but I figured I could save that for later. I'd been useful enough. I was on my 4th game of team fight tactics when I realized I'd forgotten my name tag. No big deal really, but figured I might as well fetch it. The manager's office was usually locked, but tonight I had the keys to it. I opened the door and started going through the drawers. It didn't take long to find the name tags. There was an entire box of them. At first I thought they were all blanks, but as I started going through them I realized they were all previous employees. Sure, this place had high turnover, but we were talking 100 people. Easy. This was ridiculous. I admit this is where I started asking myself some questions. During the day shift, there was always someone new. Someone being trained or interviewed. I had only been there for about a week, and I was already feeling like a veteran. The only people who seemed to be regulars were the managers, Jada, Kennedy, and Alicia. They seemed decent enough. So why were so many people quitting? As I got back behind the register, I realized there was a customer outside. Literally just outside the door. I waved at them. There was something off. They were just standing there, but they were so close that the automated door should have opened, and yet the door remained closed. It was a man. Late 30s, scraggly beard, rough red shirt. Bit of a chunky look with sunken bloodshot eyes and a natural frown. He just stared at me. I waved at him again, but I got no response. "Can I help you?" I called out. Nothing. Not a blink. I pulled out a chair and sat down. The man stayed outside looking in. I tried not to think about it, but it was bothering me. I couldn't see his car anywhere on the cameras, and he didn't seem to want anything. I couldn't tell if he was on drugs or just being weird. I gave him a few minutes, but he just stood there. Finally, I got up from my chair. "Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." He didn't seem to listen. He was a bit shorter than me, but he had a good 50 pounds on me. He'd be trouble in a brawl. "I don't want to call the police," I said. "Can I help you, sir?" I pulled out my phone and held it up for him to see. I dialed the number and held it up for him to see, but still nothing. Then my phone rang. Unknown caller. It was just past midnight. Without letting the unnerving man out of my sight, I took the call. "Yeah," I answered. "Please don't hang up," a voice on the other end said. "You're in danger and I can help." I was getting nervous. I wandered back and forth watching those bloodshot eyes follow me. "Who is this?" I asked. "I'm Angie," the voice responded. "I used to work there. Same shift, same managers. I wanted to warn you." I'd seen an Angie tag in the box earlier, maybe even several. She sounded young and nervous as all hell. "In a few hours, something terrible is going to happen," she continued. "And if you're not out by then, you might as well be dead." "What are you talking about?" "Look outside." I'd been looking outside this entire time, but I'd been entirely focused on this one man outside the front door. From across the road, I could see more people. About a dozen, lumbering out of the woods. "I need you to leave," she said. "Just walk out. Nothing will happen if you just walk away. Nothing will come for you." Who are these people? What's going to happen? I don't know what... "Look," she interrupted. "It is perfectly simple. Just walk out the door." Something in me screamed for me not to do it, that I shouldn't step outside and walk past these people. They felt malicious, and I couldn't put my finger on why. Still, I stepped up to the door. Leaving seemed like the obvious choice. Strangely, it didn't open. "It won't open," I said. "Hold on." They want to keep you in there. They don't want you to leave. They want you to stay and die." "Die?" I asked. "What do you mean?" I stopped my pacing. Something was wrong. Was I locked in? "Tell me exactly what is about to happen," I demanded. "Something is in there with you," Angie sighed. "It could be 5 minutes. It could be a few hours. But that thing in there is coming for you." "And what thing are we talking about?" The man with the bloodshot eyes had 2 people joining him. A young man with a grotesque overbite and a young woman who could easily be mistaken for a child. All of them stared at me with the same broken eyes and rough clothes. They stopped inches short of the front door. "It doesn't have a name," Angie said, "but it'll leave you empty. It'll leave you like the people out front." "But if I leave, I'll be okay?" "Yes, that's what I'm telling you." "Hold on, I'll check the back." I hurried out back to the employee entrance. I pressed down the cold handle and the door swung open. Outside were another group of 4 people. 2 young men, an older woman, and a girl no more than 16 years old. They all stared at me. I couldn't tell if they were drawn to me or the store. I stopped short of stepping through the door. "Why do?" "Did they come here?" I asked Angie. "They serve their master. They want the spoils." "What spoils? What?" I thought about it. She was talking about me. "Right," I said, nodding to myself. "I see. Are you at the back door? Are you there yet?" Yeah, I'm here." "Just walk out," she whispered. "It's not too late." I was just about to walk out when a thought hit me. Why would they lock the front door, but not the back? That didn't make any sense. If the purpose was to keep me here, they could easily barricade the back as well. Something didn't add up. "The door is open," I said. "Great. You can still make it..." Why wouldn't they lock the back door, Angie? She hesitated and there was a brief pause. If they're locking me in here to hurt me, why wouldn't they lock the back door? I repeated. I don't know, she said, but you have to trust me. They gave me the keys, Angie. They go everywhere. I can lock and unlock this door 100 times. What's going on? They don't usually do that. I closed the door and stepped back. 4 less pairs of eyes staring at me. Look, said Angie. I was the last person to leave. They fucked up. I found a spare key and got out before it was too late. Maybe they figured I'd warn you. Maybe they're trying to trick you. Sure, yeah, I chuckled. Convenient. I'm trying to help you, she cried out. Those things out there are to discourage you from going outside. They're harmless, but they're there to scare you. Can't you see it is all just a way for them to keep you in there? I got one person screaming at me to go outside, and no one telling me to stay. No locked doors, just plenty of fucking creeps staring at me. What am I supposed to believe? Fine, you want more proof. Call the police. Hang up and call them. I ended the call. There were 8 people out front by now, all gathering outside the front door. I couldn't tell if they were trying to get in or if they were waiting for me to step out. I called the emergency services, only to be met with silence. Not even a dial tone, just a blank nothing. I tried a few more numbers. My mom, my friends. I tried going online, but all I got was cached copies of sites I'd been to before. My background picture had changed to a black screen. But there was something else. Something had started to smell. The freshly stocked frozen goods had suddenly gone bad, and a stench was oozing out of the freezers. Our flowers by the counter had withered and died, all except the sunflowers, which turned a sickly blue. I wasn't getting through to anyone. Being inside was awful. The single-serving frozen meals were making me gag. I figured I'd go for the landline. As I got in the manager's office, I got another call on my phone. Unknown caller. Looking back and forth between my phone and the landline, I weighed my options. I chose Angie. How are you getting through? I asked her. How do you know my number? I still got the email password. I just checked your application. But how come your number works? Everything else is down. I'm calling from a private network, she said. They don't know there's a way in. They, I asked. I thought it was just one thing. No, they're working together. People don't just go missing without someone noticing. So there's like an intelligence behind it. A conspiracy. Yeah, people come and go in these places all the time. Are they paying you under the table? They figured it was sort of a trial and no paperwork. No missing people. No records. Just a box of name tags. It made sense, in a way. But I needed more. I needed proof. There had to be something. Why didn't you call me earlier? I asked. You could have called me as soon as I got the job or as soon as my shift started. I had to make sure Jada wasn't around, she said. She would try to trick you. I'm not sure you're not trying to trick me. Why would I spend my time calling you from across the country just to have you fail? She screamed. If I was part of this, I would just let you sit there with your goddamn team fight tactics and die. She went quiet. So did I. I counted my breaths as I looked outside. There were more of them now. How did you know what I was playing? I asked. She didn't respond. The silence hung in the air. I'm asking you, how did you know what I was playing? She was just as quiet as the man with the bloodshot eyes, still waiting for me outside the door. You're watching. You knew I was alone. You knew I was getting antsy about the guy showing up outside. Yeah, she sighed. You tried to get me out as soon as he showed up. You tried to trick me before there were too many of them to scare me off. That's not... She sighed. I could hear heavy breathing. As I paced back and forth, I was getting ready to hang up. This was a trick. She was the one tricking me clearly. trying to get me outside to join those things. I know this looks bad, she said. I know. I'm sorry. I'm honestly just trying to help you. This time, I was the one keeping quiet. I walked up to the door, studying the people outside, blank stares following my every move. I felt like a snake charmer, like they could snap out of it and tear me apart in the blink of an eye. As I said, I have the passwords for everything. I'm the only one who knows them. I just wanted to give you the best shot at getting out of there. I hoped they wouldn't come tonight, but as soon as they did, I had to do something. You're not being honest with me. I'm not lying. I'm just having a hard time explaining it. There's a lot of shit about this that all sounds completely insane. I don't want to throw you off the deep end. Give it to me straight, I demanded. Tell me what the fuck is coming for me. It's not a thing. Like, not real. It's there, but it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It just steps through. Steps through what? The world. The air. A ripple in time or something. It just steps in and it's there. And then it shoves some kind of mouth spike into your head and gargles up something inside. A mouth spike. What the hell are you? Yes, a spike. And no, it goes into your mouth. It doesn't have a mouth of its own. It just goes into you and gone. Game over. I didn't know what to think. My mind was a jumbled mess, and I felt my pulse rising and falling. There were over 18 people outside in various states of disarray, all of them just staring at me. If I just stepped outside, I'd know for sure. What does it look like? Does it? The lights flickered. There was a loud hum, a buzz, and then an electric failure. One of the fluorescent lights burned out, while the others just slowly dimmed to nothing. This was real. It was make or break by this point. Something was happening. The lights went out, I whispered. Is this? Now, Angie screamed. Get out, now! I ran. I tripped and tumbled my way into the back room in complete darkness. I almost twisted my ankle as I bumped into the lunch table. I could barely hear my thoughts, and I had to remind myself to breathe. The roof of my mouth ached as if anticipating a piercing pain. I could feel my head filling with blood and adrenaline as my dry eyes refused to blink. As I put my hand on the back door, I did the mistake of pulling instead of pushing. It took me 3 tries before a thought hit me. I couldn't see the sign on the door because of the darkness. In fact, I couldn't see anything. Nothing. Angie, I wheezed, putting my phone in my ear. You there? Hurry, she screamed. You can make it. How did you see it? The thing was huge. It just, how did you see it in complete darkness? Yeah. You said the lights went out. It was right there. I can't even see the sign on the back door. How the hell did you see a spike? Look, and to add to that, how the hell do you know what it does with that spike? You've never seen the thing kill. You said you were the last one to work this shift, and the thing sure as hell didn't kill you. You're missing the point. It doesn't add up, Angie. None of this adds up. You couldn't have seen it, and there's no way for you to know how it kills. I stood there in the dark. I heard Angie panting on the other side, matching my breathing. You're lying to me, Angie. You're not trying to save me. She stopped breathing. A wave washed over me. I was either dead or saved. There was no in between. I was moments from finding out. Every little sound shook me. A breeze just outside, a crackling wire, ventilation struggling to turn back on. I hadn't even noticed my hand was on the door handle. You lied to me, I said out loud. You did. I caught you. There was a sound coming from the other side of the door, a shuffling of feet. Yes, said Angie. From the other side of the door. I must have stood there for an hour until the power came back on. The people outside were gone. Angie was gone. My phone worked just fine, so I called everyone and just cried for help. The police found me locked in the bathroom in a full panic, and I barely even remember being escorted out. Cameras had picked up a mob gathering outside, but that was pretty much it. They couldn't be identified from the back of their heads. Jada and the other managers were called in, and they seemed genuinely surprised. I've since looked it up. 100 people starting and quitting their job in a place like that isn't uncommon. People come and go all the time. The managers honestly didn't know why people disappeared, it seems. Maybe this is just how things work. Or maybe there's more than one Angie out there preying on short-term workers. And the front door. There was no conspiracy there. The thing just jams sometimes, some kind of trouble with the wiring. If I'd messed with it just a bit more, the thing could kick wide open. That broken door was the only thing that saved me from joining them that night. I would have walked right out as soon as Angie asked me to. I worked there for another 4 months, but just day shifts and weekends. The night shifts seemed to go off without a hitch, though. Maybe Angie and her friends moved on from an easy meal. I've saved up enough money for my move to Minneapolis, but I'd never forgive myself if I didn't put this into writing. Looking back at it, it feels surreal. There are things out there, things that want us to join them. Over the years of my life, I've seen some strange things happen. Well, not strange per se, just things I couldn't explain. This is one of those events. The conversations aren't exactly verbatim, but I assure you they are not embellished. About 10 years ago, I had a big night out with my mates. The club closed at 5 a.m., so naturally it shifted to our place, as it was an old converted warehouse in Collingwood, a filthy inner suburb of Melbourne at the time, that had plenty of room for guests. It was awesome for after parties, and we rented cheap from the local radio station below. I stopped drinking around 7 a.m. or so with the crew and collapsed into bed with my GF soon after. Getting up about 3 p.m. with the mother of all hangovers, I started to get ready for work. My mate Benson noticed how haggard I was and offered a little pick-me-up, which I gratefully accepted. Been clean for 9 odd years now. You will see why soon. Where I worked at the time was a terrible place for a young adult, or anyone really, cancer hospital and research institute. But I had just earned my security license a few years earlier, and the pay there was fantastic. And as you probably gathered, I did have a weekend club habit to support. I always dreaded a Code Black's call. I won't go into the details, but essentially it boils down to a morgue escort for the recently deceased. Fuck! I hated those. My first shift, literal first time working there, I was introduced to Code Blacks via an 8-year-old girl who passed from an aggressive lymphoma. I had seen her frolicking with her mother earlier that day in the playground, too. I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried a bit when the funeral home came to pick up the body, unzipping the body bag slightly to identify the elfin child. Even typing this now, my eyes are welling up. Sorry, I digress. Fast forward to about 6 p.m. and I'm doing lockdown. It's exactly what it sounds like, touring the building and making sure doors are locked, lights are off, no one around without their pass cards, etc. The building is 10 stories tall, with floors 9 through 2 being mostly wards for different variations of patient status. I had just cleared floor 8 when I had the call I hated over the radio. Security to ward 6, code black and 5. Damn it. I continued down the stairwell toward 6, ducking into a toilet for a quick line. Looking back, I realize how truly addicted to speed I was. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't an emaciated stereotype, nor was I a thief. I simply had an addiction, nothing more. As I skulked out of the facilities, I jumped slightly as Ron, my partner for the night, called over the radio to see if I was on the code black. Replying in the affirmative, I walked into the ward proper, checking in with the head nurse. 2 orderlies had already covered up the poor soul on the stretcher and told me to lead the way. Using the master key, I was always paranoid about losing that bloody thing. I locked off one elevator and, inserting the key to a different slot and turning, sent us down to the morgue. Exiting after the 15-second trip, I relocked the elevator from general use and opened up the morgue door. From memory, there was about 24 square doors on either wall for the temporary housing of the deceased, with a second door leading off to a small garage that staff from various funeral homes used to pick up the unfortunate corpses for the preparations and eventual service. I waited at the door for them, not from fear of the body, mind you. I just wasn't required at drop-offs, only pickups. A few minutes later, we were making our way back up to 6 in silence. Around 7 p.m., I could see the sun setting through the window on level 3. This floor was for research and a housing for the larger equipment. The floor plan was like a capitalized O in shape, with a camera pointed down the long corridor towards the swipe card access only door. This section is relatively fast to check, as there is only 3 doors, one halfway down the long corridor and the other 2 at the end of the shorter one. Swiping through, the door rolled open cleanly, minus the slight squeak at the end it always gave. I strolled along the corridor, checking my first door. As I rounded the corner to check the others. Squeak. I froze and turned around slowly. Keep in mind I was flying high on the gear from earlier. Relaxing a touch, I figured it was one of the researchers coming back through to the lab sections. It was not a researcher. A very pale man in his twilight years, bereft of hair and garbed only in a hospital gown, was clutching an IV stand and looking around him. I approached him with caution. Some of the older patients were a bit loopy in the first place. "Are you okay, sir? A bit lost?" "Sorry? Yes, lost. Went downstairs to see a friend in 2 after his treatment and got turned around, I guess." He chortled at this, which turned into a cough. Absently, I noticed a large, discolored, and very prominent mole straddling the bridge of his nose as he wiped his mouth slowly with the back of his hand. "Could you help me back?" "Certainly, sir. I'll just check these doors and walk you back to your ward." "Cheers, mate," he said with a grimace. Turning back to do the last check, I pulled out my radio. Ron would be in the security control center by now. "Jock, for Ron, copy." "Go ahead, mate." "Yeah, I'm up in the labs. Got an elderly patient turned around on the way back to his ward. I'm gonna unlock elevator 1 to walk him back." A pause. "You said the labs, right?" Ron sounded uncertain. "Yep, that's right." Another pause. "Okay. There's nothing on camera, though." That made me stop dead in my tracks. I quickly checked the last door and rounded back towards the entrance. Sure enough, no one. It's possible that he pushed the button to open the security door, so I sped up to it, hammering it myself. "Well, I can see you now. What's the hurry?" Ignoring Ron for the moment, I checked the stairwell. Standing motionless and listening intently, nothing could be seen or heard, backing out and glancing upwards at the elevator meters, both reading as they were when I walked in. Then 3 things popped into my head. How did a secure maglock door open for a patient? Where the hell could he have gone? And lastly, why did he not appear on camera? Surely he wasn't that quick? That's when the elevator started ticking down. Needless to say, I freaked a bit. My heart was trying to explode from my chest at this point, and my eyes were firmly glued to the slow countdown. Naturally, when it stopped with the characteristic ding sound 10 seconds later, I recoiled from the opening door, only to have a rather matronly nurse smirking at me. A shiny name badge announced Joyce is her name, but I personally didn't recognize her. "All good there, Chief?" she asked with a slight grin. "Yeah, just a bit freaked out, that's all," I responded. I joined her in the elevator to go 1 level below. I was itching to get back to the conceived safety of the ski. "We lost a patient earlier up on 6, Joyce remarked casually. With relief evident in my voice, I turned slightly and replied, "I know I saw him earlier. I was trying to find him when you pulled up on 3. Figured. We have him now, though." I blitzed through the next 2 floors, aching to return to the ski. Finally, rounds completed, I retreated back to the little control room. The second I walked in, Ron, a burly, retired bouncer, spun slowly from the numerous CCTV cameras to face me. Looking me up and down, he promptly asked me if I was stoned. Telling him no, just a bit of gear. The security industry is rife with amphetamine abuse, and I knew Ron occasionally dabbled in it to help with the long hours. And why did he ask? Wordlessly, he turned around and motioned at the one of the screens. "Watch," Ron stated bluntly. The feed was from the corridor in the labs. At the top of the screen, I saw my recorded doppelganger walk out of the stairwell, checking the elevators, and swiping through the security door, all in the staccato rhythm of 2 frames per second, prevalent to Cock Steve footage back then. As I walked toward the camera, the door stopped just short of closing, reopened and closed again as I disappeared around the camera's bottom left. I glanced at the timestamp in the corner, and it matched when I went through not my walkthrough 90 minutes or so previously. I then reappeared and walked up to where the old man was standing. Except there was no man there, not on the camera at least. I walked back towards the camera again, pulling my radio up to my mouth as well. Disappeared out of frame again for a few seconds. Reappeared with a bit more speed towards the door. Go through all the other motions I had been through 20 ago. But then, I stood facing the elevator for at least 2 minutes. I swear it was only 10 seconds or so from when I noticed the numbers decreasing when it actually happened. The doors open, I step inside. Ron turns to me with an expectant look. "I was calling you on the radio the entire time. Why didn't you answer me?" I simply shrugged. "I won't mention it to anyone, okay?" Ron stated nonchalantly. Confused, I replied he was fucking there, man. Even one of the nurses was looking for him. It was Ron's turn to shrug. "I'm just going by what I see, not what you saw." As if that was its cue, a buzzer sounded, jarring us both bolt upright. With a nervous chuckle, I reached out for the red old-school backlight phone. "Security room. This is..." I can't remember his name for the life of me. Let's call him Bob, from Tobin Brothers Funerals. "I have a pickup waiting downstairs." "On my way." Ron grinned at me. "Off ya. Go, mate." He sometimes had a habit of abusing his seniority on site. I traveled down to the morgue, still confused as hell about the anomalous event. I must have gone over it a dozen times in my head before the elevator stopped. Striding through the morgue proper to the garage, I hit the switch for the roller door to open. A nondescript station wagon with dark-tinted windows at the back rolled in, the Tobin Brothers logo emblazoned on the door. Exchanging a few pleasantries, we went to ascertain which body to be picked up. Samuel Thompson, I will never forget that name, was the intended, and of course, he was from the code black earlier. Bob casually zipped the bag down slightly to check. Before I vomited violently in the waste bucket, I still remember seeing that prominent mole, now permanently etched into my brain, a decade later. To the chuckle of Bob, of course, probably thinking that it was because of the dead body. He was partially right to do so. This was the man from earlier, the same fucking man. Lightheaded, I mumbled a few words of apology to Bob and hightailed it back to the CC as soon as I was able. Bursting through the door, I relayed what I had seen to Ron. He sat quietly for a moment, navel-gazing, then spoke up. "Neither of us will speak of this to anyone upstairs." I readily agreed. Ron volunteered to do the rounds for the rest of the shift. I'll admit, I was petrified now, and quite happily stayed in the sky. About 10 minutes after he had left, an unbidden thought leapt into my mind. I pulled out the personnel register used to assign pass cards to staff. Afterwards, I finished my shift for the night without uttering another word, went home, cracked a beer, polished my last baggie of speed to this day, and started drinking for the next 2 days solid, only pausing to call my boss to transfer off night shift at the Cancer Institute. Sounds fair enough, right? I probably could have attributed these events to a hallucination of some sort. I was pretty hungover and full of gear. The fact is, a decade later, not only can I still not recollect those few minutes staring at the elevator doors, but mainly because I'm adamantly 100% sure of what I saw in the labs, and in the ski after Ron started his rounds. No Joyce in the personnel register. None in the elevator camera feed either.